The soft amber light of a late September sunset spilled across the hardwood floors of the Bennett's upscale Nashville home, turning the edges of Cassidy's bedroom rug into golden fire. She stood in front of her open suitcase, carefully folding a cream silk blouse, one of many pieces meant to uphold the illusion she'd been cultivating for months. This wasn't a business trip. It was an escape, a vacation in Maui with a man who wasn't her husband. And tomorrow morning, she'd be boarding a plane to paradise, under the guise of a week-long conference in Seattle. Cassidy paused, smoothing the fabric one last time before slipping it into place. Her fingers were steady, but her heart fluttered in her chest. Maybe it was the thrill. Or maybe it was fear. But either way, she told herself this was the last time. Just one more night of pretending. Down the hall, she could hear the soft hum of Adler's computer. Her husband, the ever-dedicated attorney, was probably neck-deep in depositions or drafting another brief. For months now, he'd been distant, focused, exhausted. She'd told herself that's why she strayed. That's why Dalton Graves, her conference colleague, had become more than a flirtatious text. More than a lunch date. More than a mistake. She'd blamed the silences, the missed date nights, the growing void between them. But deep down, Cassidy knew the truth. She chose it. And now, Adler's silence wasn't convenience anymore. It was unsettling. Earlier that day, Cassidy had called Adler's office out of habit, to maintain the routine they both pretended still existed. But his assistant had answered with an unexpected update. "Oh, Mr. Bennett isn't in today. He took the day off." He never took days off. The comment had thrown her, just for a moment, before she pushed the unease aside. He was probably prepping for that big trial. Or burned out. Or finally taking a break. Right? Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, lighting up with Dalton's name. "Can't wait for tomorrow. These months have been torture without you. Ocean View Suite. All set." A slow smile crept across Cassidy's lips as she tagged back. "Just one more night. Everything's arranged." She hit send, then glanced at the door. The house was quiet. Almost too quiet. The sharp zip of the suitcase echoed unnaturally through the bedroom. Cassidy took a deep breath, forcing her expression to relax as she turned toward the mirror, adjusting her hair, then her blouse, then the lie sitting heavy in her chest. And that's when she heard him. "Still packing?" Adler's voice from the doorway struck her like a whip. She jolted, spinning around. He was leaning against the frame, arms crossed, the dim light catching the steel watch on his wrist. She tried to smile. "You startled me." "Did I?" His tone was flat. No warmth. No accusation. Just something colder. He stepped into the room, each footfall deliberate. "Need any help?" "No, I'm all set." Cassidy turned quickly, pretending to rearrange something in her suitcase. "How was your day?" "You left early." "Productive." He was behind her now, close enough that she could smell the sandalwood cologne she'd bought him last Christmas. "Very productive." His reflection in the mirror met hers. His dark eyes didn't blink. And for the first time in 6 months, Cassidy felt something she hadn't expected. Fear. Not fear of violence. Adler had never raised his voice to her, let alone his hand. This was something worse. Something quiet. Focused. Intentional. She opened her mouth to say something, anything, but stopped when Adler reached into his jacket and pulled out a white envelope. He set it gently on the dresser. "Thought you might want to take this to Seattle." Cassidy looked down. Plane tickets. To Maui. In her name. Next to Dalton's. Dated. Printed. Proof. Her knees almost buckled. She looked up, panic blooming. "Adler." "Shush," he said softly. "No need to lie. You've done enough of that." Then he leaned closer. "I took the day off, to clean up what's mine." And with that, he turned and walked out of the room, leaving her frozen in place, the suitcase half-packed, the trip ruined, and everything she built starting to burn. The morning light filtered softly through the plantation shutters as Adler Bennett sat at the sleek granite kitchen island, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. His lawyer, Dana Riley, reviewed the documents spread across the countertop. "We're filing motions today," Dana said, voice steady but sympathetic. "Exclusive use of the house, temporary restraining orders, suspension of joint accounts. I've also prepared evidence for the court, texts, photos, travel records." Adler nodded, unmoved. "Make it airtight. No mistakes." Across town in a trendy coffee shop in East Nashville, Cassidy stirred her latte nervously, phone in hand. The carefully constructed world she'd lived in for 6 months was cracking. Her assistant texted. "Mr. Bennett's office called. There's a hearing scheduled for tomorrow morning." She froze, hands trembling. There was no time to call Dalton. No way to explain this. Back at the Bennett estate, Adler's phone buzzed. It was a message from Dalton Graves, the man whose name now haunted every corner of his life. "You don't know what you're getting into." Adler stared at the screen, then typed back, cold as ice. "I'm not here to play games." Over the next 48 hours, the walls closed in on Cassidy. Her credit cards were frozen. Her access to their joint accounts blocked. The Mercedes in the driveway, hers only by title, but once hers to flaunt, was gone, repossessed by court order. Her lawyer called with bad news. "The evidence is overwhelming. You're looking at a very difficult custody battle if you contest this." Adler wasn't done. He leaked carefully curated details to Cassidy's social circle, painting a picture of deception and betrayal that spread like wildfire. At her Pilates studio, whispers followed her every move. At work, clients questioned her professionalism. Her so-called friends stopped answering calls. One late evening, Cassidy found herself alone in the empty house, a silent phone in her hand, realizing her luxury had turned into a prison. "Everything I loved, burned away, by the man I thought I could fool." Meanwhile, Adler sat in his home office, a single framed photo on his desk, A picture of the family they once were. He didn't smile, but something in his eyes softened. This is the end, but maybe the beginning of something real. Cassidy stared at the cold walls of her temporary apartment in East Nashville, a place so unlike the spacious, sunlit rooms she once owned. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a call from her lawyer. "Cassidy, you need to see this." She clicked the link, and a wave of dread washed over her. The local news site had picked up the story. Prominent attorney files for restraining order against wife amid infidelity scandal. The article detailed allegations supported by court documents: infidelity, betrayal, financial misconduct. The story was everywhere: social media, work emails, whispered conversations. Her world was collapsing. At the office, her assistant avoided eye contact. Clients canceled meetings. The Pilates studio sent a polite but firm letter reminding her of the terms of cancellation after several missed classes. Desperation clawed at her. She called Dalton. No answer. Texted him. Read receipts. No reply. One night, alone in the dark, Cassidy replayed every lie, every stolen moment, every secret rendezvous. Was it worth it? She wanted to scream, wanted to run, wanted to undo, but the truth was clear. She had burned her bridges. Meanwhile, Adler was steady. He wasn't seeking revenge for revenge's sake, he was reclaiming his life. A message from Dana Riley popped up. Court date confirmed for next Tuesday. "We have everything we need." He exhaled slowly and looked at the family photo on his desk, his eyes lingering on Cassidy's smile, frozen in time. One chapter closes. Another begins. The early morning sun filtered through the blinds of Adler's study in Nashville, casting warm stripes across the polished hardwood floor. A fresh cup of black coffee steamed on the desk next to a stack of legal briefs. He rubbed his temples, but this time, it wasn't exhaustion, it was clarity. After weeks of court battles and sleepless nights, Adler began reconnecting with old friends. He met with Jordan, his longtime assistant, for lunch at their favorite downtown diner. Jordan's easy smile and honest laugh reminded him there was life beyond the courtroom. "You're holding up better than I expected," Jordan teased. Adler smiled, the kind of smile that didn't feel forced. "Had to. For me. For my daughter." That afternoon, Adler visited the local community center where he used to volunteer coaching youth soccer. The field was alive with laughter and the sound of sneakers on grass. A familiar face, Rachel, waved him over. "Hey stranger. Long time no see." They caught up, talking about life, loss, and second chances. "You ready to let someone new in?" Rachel asked, eyes kind but direct. Adler hesitated. "Maybe. When the time's right." Back at home, a message popped up on his phone. A text from Nia Camden, the project manager from his firm's New York office, who'd reached out to check on him after the scandal broke. "If you ever want to grab coffee or just talk, I'm here." He typed back slowly. "Thanks. Maybe soon." That night, as the city lights flickered outside his window, Adler opened a leather-bound journal and began to write. "I lost a wife I thought I knew, but I'm starting to find the man I'm meant to be." The page filled with words of hope, resilience, and quiet determination. For the first time in a long time, Adler felt something he hadn't in months. Adler adjusted his tie nervously as he waited outside the cozy East Nashville cafe. The crisp autumn air tugged at the edges of his coat, but inside, warmth and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee awaited. He glanced at his watch. 5 minutes early. Typical. When Nia Camden arrived, she smiled, genuine, easy, and somehow familiar despite their brief acquaintance. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was a nightmare." "No worries. Glad you made it." They slid into a booth by the window, the hum of quiet conversations around them. Their talk started cautiously, touching on work, mutual friends, and recent challenges. But soon, laughter began to break through the tension. Nia shared a story about her disastrous first solo presentation, and Adler confessed to once accidentally locking himself out of his office in a suit and tie. "We're both flawed," Nia said with a grin. "Makes life interesting." Adler nodded, feeling a crack in the armor he'd worn so tightly for months. For the first time in a long while, Adler felt seen, not as the betrayed husband or the high-powered attorney, but as a man. As the afternoon stretched, they talked about their childhoods, ambitions, and what they sought in life. Nia's honesty was refreshing, and Adler found himself wanting to know more. When the cafe announced last call, they lingered a moment. "I'm glad you reached out," Adler said quietly. "Me too. We should do this again." Outside, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges. Adler walked Nia to her car, heart lighter than it had been in months. That night, Adler wrote in his journal, "One step forward isn't much, but it's everything right now." And for the first time, hope felt real. The small apartment in East Nashville felt colder than usual. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the occasional hum of the city outside and the faint ticking of a clock on the wall. Cassidy sat curled on the threadbare couch, phone in hand, scrolling through messages that once brought excitement but now only delivered disappointment. Her social media notifications had all but dried up. The followers, the likes, the carefully curated posts, they were gone, replaced by whispered rumors and judgmental glances at work. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. "Everyone's talking. You lost more than you know." She wanted to delete it but kept staring. She called Dalton one last time. No answer. No voicemail. Just silence. Her thoughts spiraled back to the luxury she once took for granted, the lavish dinners, the fancy clothes, the getaway weekends. All built on lies, half-truths, and stolen moments. The truth hit hard. I burned bridges. I burned family. And now, I'm alone. One rainy evening, Cassidy found herself standing in front of the Bennett estate, the grand porch light glowing softly. She considered knocking but turned away. Instead, she whispered to the night, "I'm sorry. I never wanted to lose you." Inside, Adler sat by the fireplace, reading but sensing something beyond the flames. The distance between them was wide, but the door, though cracked, was still there. The afternoon sun cast long shadows over the Bennett family home as Cassidy stood hesitantly on the front porch, her heart pounding louder than the knock she raised. After weeks of silence, of walls built high between them, this felt like stepping onto thin ice. The door opened slowly, and there stood Adler, his face unreadable, but his eyes softening just a fraction when they met hers. "Cassidy." His voice was calm, but the weight behind it made her swallow hard. "I know I have no right to ask for anything," she began, voice trembling. "But I want to try. For us. For the family we lost." Adler hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in." Inside, the house smelled like faint cedar and fresh laundry, a stark contrast to the storm brewing between them. They sat across from each other in the living room, the silence stretching before Cassidy finally spoke again. "I'm sorry. For everything. The lies, the betrayal, the pain." Adler nodded slowly. "Sorry doesn't erase months of deception. I know." She wiped a tear. "But I'm willing to do the work. If you are." For the first time, Adler let his guard crack. "It's going to take time. And honesty. No more secrets." Cassidy nodded, relief flooding through her. No more secrets. Outside, the late afternoon light softened the edges of their fractured family, offering a fragile promise that maybe, just maybe, healing could begin.